All right, let us get started. 3 minutes past the scheduled time. It's about 11 o'clock CET. Thank you very much for joining in today. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody, depending on where you are. I thank you for joining me today on this interesting topic, generative AI and cybersecurity. What's the impact of this cutting edge technology on cybersecurity? But I would like to take a moment to extend our heartfelt gratitude to our sponsor, NeoEDX. Their generous support has made this event possible, and this helps us collaborate and also innovate in the advancing field of cybersecurity. Thank you, NeoDX. Now, we are jumping into this discussion, diving into the topic of generative AI and cybersecurity, right? Now, it's just not about adopting the cutting edge technology, but also understand how we can use this technology to be resilient against the sophisticated cyber threats that emerge with every passing day. We really cannot imagine a world without cybersecurity. Now imagine you have an assistant, an artificial assistant that will respond to the threats, that will also anticipate the threats. It will create a dynamic shield that evolves faster than the threats themselves. That's a big statement, isn't it? And it's not rocket science, it's not science fiction, but it is a reality that we are moving towards with generative AI very fast. Now, in this section today, which is about 30 minutes or let's say 40 minutes, we will be uncovering different layers of generative AI in cybersecurity, right? So, right from the security measures to simulated, sophisticated phishing attacks for the training, we're going to take a look at all of the multiple phases that generative AI has. But first thing first, what is generative AI? What is the definition? Now, generative AI is not one technology. It's a subset of multiple technologies that makes it capable of generating new content, new ideas, and even new data that resembles the original training data. At this point, we really do not need to give examples. We have been using ChatGPT for quite some time and others as well, like Midjourney or Leonardo.ai. There are numerous tools that helps us generate not just text, but also images, videos. It's like teaching a machine to be an artist. You're telling how to write. You're teaching how to be a thinker so that it can create something new from what it has learned. Appears like magic, isn't it? Now, when we speak of this magic, there must be some kind of complexity behind generative AI, isn't it? Yes, there is. And these are sophisticated algorithms. Now, let us go ahead and dive a little bit deeper and appreciate and understand the complexity and the capabilities of generative AI. First, we have the GANs, which is also called as generative adversarial networks. Now, imagine GANs as two artists. One is a generator, which is creating an art, and other is a discriminator, that is a critic of that art. So both of them are playing a symphony. They are like orchestrating a simple music orchestra. The generator here produces images from random noises, which makes them realistic as possible. But then there comes a discriminator, which is evaluating these images against the real ones. And that's how it is trying to distinguish between genuine from those that are generated. Now, there's a competition between both of these engines. And like I mentioned, the engine number one, generator, is always competing with engine number two, which is the discriminator. So the competition drives both of these networks to improve continuously. So the generator's aim is to create increasingly convincing images so that it can fool the discriminator. And this process actually enhances the quality of the generated images, and it also finds applications in creating realistic simulations for training AI in the field of cybersecurity, as an example. Now, that's about GANs, the generative adversarial networks. Then there is transformers. Now, these are the brains behind the most advanced language models. Like you have traditional models that process words in sequence. Transformers can look at entire sentences. They can look at entire paragraphs all at once, and they determine the context, the relationship between the words in no matter what their position is. Now, this ability allows them to generate text that remarkably is looking like human like articles or human like images, right? So you can also code if required. Now, in the context of cybersecurity, what is Transformer doing? Now, transformers can be used to simulate phishing emails or even social engineering attacks. And even it can train systems and the users in order to detect any kind of nuanced threats. Now, that's about transformers. We understand how important that is. But then there's another important and interesting aspect, which is variational encoders. It is all about understanding and generating the data. The VAEs, that's in short of variational encoders, work by compressing the data into a compact representation. That's called as encoding. And then there's another thing that it does is reconstruction. And reconstruction is called as decoding. Now, encoding is and decoding is done as closely as possible to the original. Now, this process is like learning the essence of data, and this allows for the generation of new data points that share similar characteristics with the original data set. Now, in terms of cybersecurity, in the context of cybersecurity, VAEs can generate synthetic data sets for training your security models, especially when real data is scarce, when real data is really sensitive to use directly. We can use VAE to encode and decode and generate that synthetic data sets. Now, each of these algorithms, the GANs, the transformers, and the VAEs, contribute a unique capability to generative AI. So there's something happening. That's what makes it an invaluable tool. By understanding and leveraging these technologies, we can create sophisticated adaptive systems capable of defending against the complex and ever evolving landscape of cyber threats. Now that you understood the engine that runs AI, let us go ahead and chat about the role of generative AI in the world of cybersecurity. What is it doing? Now, we are all coming from traditional security systems, and we often rely on databases of known threats. We use those known threats to identify the attacks and then mitigate them later on. This approach is great, has worked all these years, but it has limitations. It has limitations, especially when dealing with new attacks or sophisticated attacks. That's where generative AI steps in, and it offers a dynamic and adaptive solution. So we go ahead and leverage generative models such as GANs in the world of cybersecurity so that you can simulate a wide range of cyber security scenarios or cyber attack scenarios. What will we do with these simulations? Well, these simulations help in training the detection models to recognize and respond to the threats that have not seen before. So it's just like a chess game where the AI not only anticipates the opponent's move, but also prepares the defenses against the strategies that have never been encountered in the past. Right? So the first bullet point, which says enhancing security measures, is carefully done so that you are preparing the defenses against what we call technically as the zero-day attacks. Then the phishing attack simulations. There is a more specific application to this, and phishing even today remains one of the most prevalent methods employed by cyber criminals. And it is done because it targets the most vulnerable link in the security chain, and we all know that humans are the weakest links. Generative AI can create highly realistic phishing emails. It can create websites for training purposes and can significantly improve the ability of your employees to recognize and avoid phishing attempts. Now, these simulations can be really complex, from simple emails that mimic a routine company communication to a sophisticated website that are nearly indistinguishable from the legitimate counterparts, right? So you can expose the users to these simulated threats in a controlled environment so that organizations can drastically reduce the likelihood of a successful phishing attack. So now that you've understood how generative AI can play a vital role in the context of cybersecurity, let us go ahead and understand some of the benefits that Gen AI brings on the table. One of the favorite ones, in fact, my favorite ones, is automation. And in the context of cybersecurity, you got automated threat detection and response. That is the most significant advantage one as a SOC engineer or even as a CISO will get. Gen AI excels in this area. It can identify patterns, it can identify anomalies because it has massive sets of data far beyond human capabilities. This allows for early detection of potential threats, including those that have never been encountered before. So you are in a position to generate simulations of potential attacks and let that generative AI learn, adapt, and then prepare for those threats in real time. Now, that is a proactive approach that significantly reduces the window of opportunity for cyber attackers, isn't it? And overall, you enhance the security posture of your organizations by doing so. The second critical benefit is training and preparedness. Of course, we have been doing training methods. We got traditional methods which work organization by organization, and companies are struggling to keep pace with evolving nature of cyber threats. And again, generative AI can step in and change the game by creating realistic, up-to-date simulations of those cyber attacks. So the cybersecurity professionals, the general users can experience, they can get the knowledge and also recognize and respond to the real world threats effectively. So by continuously updating training scenarios based on the latest threat intelligence, the Gen AI ensures that the training remains relevant, it remains effective. And by doing so, you are significantly improving the human element of the cyber defenses, isn't it? Now, that is innovation. We really need innovation in cybersecurity. We need to push our boundaries beyond what the security technologies are what using today. We need to use the latest, the cutting edge algorithms in order to be more resilient to those attacks, right? Now, that being said, there are challenges. there are definitely some considerations that we should always keep in mind. First and foremost, that comes into my mind based on experience is the privacy concerns. This takes the center stage. Generative AI has the ability to create realistic simulations, realistic data as well, great, but it can sometimes act as a double edged sword. On one hand, you got significant advancements in threat detection and training. On the other hand, it raises questions about the creation of deceptive content. Can it be potentially misused? Because there may be some personal data lurking around. Ensuring that the Gen AI is developed and it is used with a strong ethical framework is really paramount, because we need to protect individuals' privacy. We need to prevent the propagation of misinformation. The next one is accuracy and reliability that stays hand in hand with ethical and privacy concerns as well. Now, technology is not infallible, isn't it? There are false positives. There are false negatives. It can occur. Specifically, in the context of identifying and responding to cyber threats, there can be false positives and false negatives. The implications of inaccuracies can be far reaching. It can potentially lead to unnecessary alarm or conversely a failure to detect genuine threats. That will be a mishap, isn't it? Striking a balance between sensitivity and specificity and continuously refining AI models through real world feedback is essential for maintaining the reliability of Gen AI systems. We must keep in mind that we cannot hand over ourselves and our security systems to generative AI. The whole reason is that Gen AI is learning. Yes, it has learned a lot, but it is in continuous learning procedure, right? There must be a way to integrate generative AI into cyber defense systems, but we should also know that these AI systems become attractive target for attackers as they may find the loopholes in generative AI, right? All that being said, considering that there are challenges, the adoption is on full swing. The sectors that I've mentioned here, just a few of them, but then there are use cases and case studies in across every industry. In the financial sectors, organizations are using, the banks are using for fraud detection and also to prevent frauds. One such bank implemented generative AI to simulate fraudulent transactions, and they reduced the false positives by over 30%. They could save millions in potential fraud losses annually. In the healthcare industry, it is used to protect patient data. So the initiatives in the healthcare industry are not only facilitated through innovation in patient care, but also significantly mitigated the risk of data breaches. So it helps in both the areas. In the government sector, the case study is clearly in terms of national security threat simulations. So it encompasses everything from power grids disruptions to communications and network breaches. So that ways vulnerabilities can be identified, and of course the nation's cyber defense strategies can be strengthened. In the e-commerce industry, customer security is paramount. An online retailer that I know of has used Gen AI to simulate phishing attacks. So they have trained the machine learning models to detect and then block malicious emails and malicious links even before it reaches the customers. So these case studies clearly highlights the versatility the impactful applications of generative AI across different industries. It also highlights its role in fraud detection, protecting sensitive information, strengthening national security, safeguarding e-commerce platforms, and there are numerous success stories that will be an inspiration for us. And this should trigger an innovative mind. How can we apply generative AI in our cybersecurity strategies? So that being said, that's an end-to-end coverage, an overview coverage of how generative AI falls within the boundaries of cybersecurity, the pitfalls, the challenges, and the highlights. The sponsor of this workshop is NeoEDX, and they have played a critical role in generative AI and integrating the technologies with Gen AI. And therefore, the following technologies that you see could be related to pen testing, vulnerability assessment, audit and compliance, usage of Gen AI in security trainings and employee awareness programs, the phishing simulations as well, and dark web scanning. So these are, of course, the use cases, but then NeoEDX has played a role in implementing and integrating these innovative solutions with Gen AI. Apart from that, there are consultings that NeoEDX provides, including cloud support on Amazon and Microsoft Azure and Google Cloud as well. The team has technical acumen on site reliability, securing microservices, and providing managed services as well. Based on certain demands from customers, there have been numerous workshops concluded on these areas that you see on screen, both offensive and defensive areas of cybersecurity. Customized programs on data engineering and cloud where organizations are stuck with could be Terraform or Open Cloud. Data science and data engineering programs based on organizations' requirement. And of course, AI and ML that NeoEDX has always been the top. There are numerous regions that NeoEDX has operated in. That includes North America, EU, Africa, Middle East, and the Australia, New Zealand areas. Now, if there are any questions related to any of these points, could be pen testing, could be vulnerability assessment, could be phishing simulations or employee security awareness programs, or anything related to technology that you're stuck with, or you would like to share and educate us about, we are all ears for that. Happy to talk to you on a phone, on Teams, or feel free to write a single liner on info@neoedx.com. That's there on the screen. We will jump in with excitement to talk to you. I hope this session has been informative to you. You have learned through this session, and stay connected with us on LinkedIn, the professional platform that connects everybody. And that's how we have been able to conclude this particular workshop today on generative AI. We'll be happy to connect with you again in the upcoming webinars. I thank you very much for connecting with you this afternoon. Bye-bye.